My biggest regret in my life is that I never told my son I understood him, not until it was almost too late. My name is James Washington. I'm 67 years old. On July 12th, 2024, I died in my backyard during a barbecue right in front of everyone I loved. I know what you're thinking. How does someone end up dead at his own barbecue? Trust me, I never thought my story would end up here either. It was one of those sticky July afternoons in Cedar Ridge, Ohio, the kind where humidity wraps around you like a heavy coat.
Dorothy, my wife of 42 years, was fussing over the potato salad, making sure nobody saw the store-bought container she'd hidden at the bottom of the trash. Dorothy always cared deeply about these little things, even after decades of family gatherings. It's one of the reasons I still loved watching her move around the kitchen, even after all these years. Marcus, our oldest son, was standing near the grill, arms crossed like always, eyes squinting suspiciously at the burgers sizzling over the fire. He was visiting from Cleveland with his two kids, little James and Destiny, ages 8 and 10. They were running around the backyard, giggling at their Uncle Michael, who pretended to chase them while keeping an eye on his phone, always one text away from work. Our daughter Sarah was laughing with my youngest granddaughter under the old oak tree, the one Marcus helped me plant when he was a teenager. From the outside, we probably looked like a postcard family. The retired principal enjoying a sunny afternoon with his smiling family. But the truth was always deeper, always messier. Maybe you know what it's like, carrying around pain that other people never notice, holding back anger because you've learned it's safer that way. For as long as I could remember, my life was about picking battles carefully, smiling politely when my dignity was stomped on, and pretending the little things didn't sting. I learned this early back when I first started working at the Cedar Ridge automotive plant in 1975. I was just 18 years old, full of hope and pride at landing my first real job. But my excitement didn't last long. I remember how a supervisor, half my age and twice as cocky, called me nigger in front of the entire floor crew. Everyone laughed except Tommy Mueller, the one white guy who'd eventually become my closest friend. He didn't laugh, he just shook his head, quietly, embarrassed.
But neither of us said anything that day. We knew what would happen if we did. I remember coming home from shifts like that, late at night, and holding Marcus, just a baby then, in my tired arms, telling him quietly, "Son, you'll never let anyone treat you like that." I promised myself he'd have a better life, that I'd teach him strength and dignity. But as Marcus grew older, he didn't always see it that way. "You always let people walk all over you, Dad," he shouted at me once during an argument. "Why didn't you fight back?" His words cut deep, because a part of me wondered the same thing. Had I been too quiet, too polite? Had my careful, quiet dignity just made things worse? Marcus and I grew apart as he became a lawyer, successful, respected, proud. He wasn't afraid to speak up about injustice. Part of me admired him, but part of me felt hurt. He saw me as weak, an old man who compromised too much, who never really fought back. But he didn't understand that every small moment of silence was its own painful battle, leaving scars nobody else could see. Dorothy saw it. She'd sit beside me on our front porch swing after a long day, her hand gently touching mine, never saying a word. She always knew exactly what I needed. But lately, even Dorothy couldn't reach the emptiness inside me. Retirement wasn't what I'd hoped. Instead of peace, I felt restless. Instead of pride, I felt guilt. I thought often about all the students I'd guided as a principal, but wondered if I'd really done enough, if I'd mattered at all. Then there was my health. Every time I heard about a former colleague or classmate passing from heart attacks or strokes, anxiety clawed at my chest. But I didn't talk about it. I was too proud, too stubborn. Maybe you've felt that same quiet desperation when everything looks fine on the surface, but deep down you're drowning in doubts and what-ifs. It was during that barbecue when all these hidden feelings finally exploded.
We'd been laughing, passing plates, telling old stories when our neighbour, Mr. Davis, known for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, made a comment about Marcus's new car, suggesting he must have gotten some special help to afford it. Marcus's eyes flashed anger instantly. He looked at me, waiting. He wanted me to say something, to fight back, just this once. But old habits die hard. I tried to laugh it off like always. "Now, Henry, you know Marcus works harder than anyone I know," I said calmly. Marcus shook his head. He was hurt, embarrassed. I recognized that look. It was the same expression I'd seen when he was a boy and someone treated him unfairly, and I'd told him to just ignore it. "Really, Dad?" Marcus's voice trembled. "After everything, you still can't stand up for me? For yourself?" Suddenly everyone was quiet. The tension was thick enough to choke on. "It's not that simple, Marcus," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yes, it is," he snapped. "It always has been, but you were too scared to do anything. You taught us to put our heads down and just accept things." His words ignited something buried inside me. Years of swallowing pride, years of being dismissed, disrespected. I felt my pulse quicken, my breathing tight.
"You don't know anything about what I've had to do to survive," I shot back, my voice harsher than I intended. "You never understood." Before I could finish, pain gripped my chest like a vice. I felt my knees give way, heard Dorothy scream my name, saw Marcus's anger turn to panic.
Everything blurred. My grandchildren were crying, their faces frozen in fear, burned into my memory. In that moment, all my hidden struggles felt meaningless. All I wanted was to tell Marcus I understood, that he was right in his own way, that I loved him. But it was too late. Darkness swallowed everything, pulling me far away from my backyard, from the family I loved, from all the hurt I'd carried quietly for decades. I died wishing I'd done more, said more, been braver. And yet, in the quiet darkness that followed, I felt something else begin, something I could never have imagined. A warmth, a light. It was just the beginning. The last thing I remembered was falling into darkness, the cries of my family fading like whispers on the wind. It was strange, like someone turning down the volume on an old radio until silence took over. At first, panic gripped me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I reached desperately, grasping at nothing. My heart, my tired, aching heart, felt heavy, like a stone sinking through deep water. But slowly, the fear eased. The heaviness faded, replaced by a gentle warmth. Suddenly, everything became quiet. Not the unsettling silence of death, but the calm stillness of a Sunday morning before anyone else wakes up. The sensation surprised me. I'd imagined death as darkness, cold, lonely emptiness. But this, it felt more like being carried gently upward, like floating on your back in a warm summer lake, eyes closed, feeling safe. Then I opened my eyes, and what I saw took my breath away. I was above my backyard, watching myself on the grass below. Dorothy knelt beside me, her hand holding mine tightly, tears streaming down her face. Marcus, his anger gone, was frantically pressing on my chest, yelling desperately for help. I wanted to reach out, tell them I was okay, but I couldn't speak. For the first time, I noticed details I'd never paid attention to. The way Dorothy's shoulders shook gently as she cried, Marcus's trembling hands, Sarah's face buried in her brother Michael's chest, my grandchildren holding each other, eyes wide with shock. In that instant, regret flooded me, not bitterness or anger, just the deep wish that I could go back, hold my son, comfort my grandchildren, tell Dorothy again how much she meant to me. But even as I felt these things, I felt another sensation growing stronger. Peace. Absolute peace. It pulled me upward gently, and suddenly I was moving away from my family. Their voices faded softly like a quiet goodbye. I glanced down at Cedar Ridge one last time, the factories and houses shrinking quickly beneath me. Soon the entire town became small, distant, like a map spread below. My heart filled with wonder, childlike and curious. Maybe you've looked down from an airplane window, amazed at how tiny and simple life looks from above. But this was different. It felt so clear, so beautiful, as if I saw the world for the very first time. I rose higher and higher until suddenly I was somewhere else completely. The first thing I noticed was a golden light, warm, bright, but soft, like morning sunlight filtering through clouds. The light wrapped around me, gentle as Dorothy's arms when she'd hold me after a long day. It felt familiar, as if I'd been here long ago and simply forgotten. Looking around, I saw a place strangely familiar yet impossible. I stood in the old automotive plant, the very same factory I'd left decades ago, but now completely transformed. The harsh concrete floors gleamed softly, smooth like marble. Walls that once felt cold and oppressive now glowed gently, radiating warmth. As I took a cautious step forward, I noticed people moving quietly around me. Some faces I recognized, some I didn't. Each wore an expression of peace and welcome, as though they'd been waiting patiently just for me. A soft hand touched my shoulder, and I turned to see a face I hadn't seen in decades, a woman whose kindness had shaped my childhood. "James Washington," she said softly, smiling. It was Mrs. Henderson, my third-grade teacher, the first person who'd ever told me I was good enough for college. She'd passed many years ago, but here she stood, glowing gently. "You believed in me," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." She nodded warmly, her eyes twinkling. "You've done well, James. Far better than you realize." Then another familiar face stepped from the light, someone I hadn't seen since I was 16 years old. My heart leapt with joy and disbelief. It was my father, Samuel Washington, strong and proud, his face younger and full of life. I hadn't seen him since he passed from pneumonia, back when I was just a boy. "Dad?" My voice trembled. He smiled, a broad, gentle smile I remembered from childhood. "Son, you carried our family's dreams further than I ever imagined possible." My chest tightened, a deep sob escaping my throat. I felt suddenly like a small boy again, wanting to run into my father's arms, finally feeling safe. But before I could move, another presence appeared, brighter than anything I'd ever seen before. My heart skipped, then filled with wonder, as a figure approached, shining softly, his face radiant with compassion. I recognized him instantly, though we'd never met before. This could only be Jesus. At first, my knees gave way. Tears poured down my face as I sank to the floor, overcome by the purest, strongest love I'd ever felt. This wasn't the distant God I'd heard about in Sunday sermons. This love knew every hidden sorrow I'd ever carried, every silent battle I'd ever fought. I wept, openly, deeply, without shame. All the walls I'd built around my heart came tumbling down in the presence of his love. I realized suddenly that every struggle, every silent humiliation I'd suffered wasn't forgotten. He'd been there with me through it all. He knelt beside me, his touch gentle and firm, lifting me from my knees. His eyes met mine, full of kindness.
"James," he said softly, his voice like music. "Welcome home." "Home?" My voice cracked, unsure, hesitant. "But why now? Why me?" He smiled patiently, as if he'd been waiting to answer this very question. because you've carried enough.
Your pain, your anger, your quiet sacrifices, I've seen them all. I felt every hurt alongside you. Now, I want you to see what your life truly meant. He gestured around us, and suddenly the space filled with scenes from my life, moments I'd long forgotten or never fully appreciated. I saw Tommy Mueller, the quiet white co-worker from the factory, defending me fiercely when I wasn't around, confronting other workers about their racist jokes. I saw Marcus as a teenager, angry and confused, pulled away from a dangerous group of friends precisely because of the strict discipline I'd always regretted imposing. My harshness had seemed cruel, but now I saw clearly it had protected him when nothing else would. I saw my students, now adults with families of their own, quietly thanking God for the principal who believed in them, who showed them that they mattered when no one else did. I saw community leaders, often skeptical or critical to my face, privately praising my quiet courage, integrity, and dignity behind closed doors. Tears continued down my cheeks, but now they were different, not sadness, but gratitude, amazement, humility. The life I'd thought insignificant, weak, or wasted was suddenly beautiful, meaningful, beyond my understanding. Jesus gently placed his hand over my heart, his touch warm, healing every wound I'd carried for decades. James, your quiet dignity and persistent courage weren't weakness, they were powerful examples of strength and love. You laid foundations others now stand upon. For the first time I believed it, truly, deeply believed it. In that moment, every doubt faded away, replaced with overwhelming peace. I want to stay here, I whispered, terrified of leaving this perfect love.
Please, let me stay. He smiled softly, eyes gentle, yet full of purpose. We have more to discuss, James. Your work isn't finished yet. I still have things to show you, truths that will bring healing. And when you return, you'll carry them back with you. Return? I asked quietly, uncertain, but strangely calm.
He nodded. Yes, but first, walk with me. There's still much to understand. His hand touched mine, warm, firm, comforting. We stepped forward into the golden light, deeper into this new and wonderful place, and I knew with every part of my being I was safe, deeply loved, and truly home. Part 3. The Heart to Heart with Jesus. We walked side by side, deeper into that gentle, golden light. Every step felt effortless, weightless. Around us, scenes shifted slowly, memories floating by like whispers. Jesus' presence beside me felt comforting, like the calm after a long storm. You carry a heavy heart, James, he said gently, glancing at me with eyes full of quiet understanding. I've carried it my whole life, I admitted softly. I thought I had to. He paused, turning fully toward me. There was no judgment, no impatience, only warmth.
Tell me what hurts most. The words caught in my throat, years of hidden pain rising like a flood. All my life I did what I thought was right. I stayed quiet when they disrespected me. I thought silence meant dignity, but my son Marcus sees weakness. Jesus nodded slowly.
Marcus is angry because he feels your pain as deeply as his own. He carries your wounds too, but silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's quiet strength. But was it enough? I asked, my voice shaking. The racism, the humiliation. I never really fought back.
I just survived. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, and suddenly we were somewhere else entirely. I stood in my old living room many years ago. Marcus was about 14, sitting quietly on the sofa, his eyes swollen with tears. My younger self was beside him, speaking softly.
You have every right to be angry, I heard myself say gently. But if we respond with anger alone, it consumes us. we lose ourselves. We have to keep our hearts open even when it hurts. Marcus looked up at me, nodding slowly. I saw something I'd missed at the time. Gratitude in his eyes, respect, even though anger would come later. Your dignity wasn't lost on Marcus, Jesus said softly. He wrestles because he wants justice, as you do. But you showed him another way, a path of courage, patience, and quiet love. Both approaches are needed. He turned again, and now I saw another scene. It was the plant, decades ago. My friend Tommy Muller stood before several co-workers, his face tight with anger. "Stop saying those things about James," Tommy said sharply. "He deserves your respect. He works twice as hard as any of you." Why don't you see that? My heart tightened. Tommy had defended me, had chosen courage when I thought I stood alone. Jesus smiled softly. "You see, James, your patience inspired others. Tommy was moved by your quiet strength to find his own voice. Every act of dignity is a powerful force, even if you don't see it immediately." Tears filled my eyes, my heart slowly mending. But the deeper hurt remained, one I hadn't spoken aloud yet. "What about the bigger problem?" I asked quietly. All my life, racism felt like a weight I couldn't escape. It wasn't just me, it was everywhere. How can something so evil keep thriving? Jesus' eyes grew solemn, full of gentle sadness. Hatred, prejudice, and injustice thrive because darkness convinces people to fear each other. It blinds them to the humanity I created within every person. He paused, placing his hand on my chest. "But love is stronger, James. Every quiet act of dignity, every choice to forgive, to endure, to keep your heart open. These are my weapons against darkness." He showed me scenes unfolding quickly, glimpses of history, the harsh realities of racism, prejudice, injustice, but always, alongside the pain, quiet heroes arose. Mothers comforting frightened children, fathers holding their dignity against humiliation, young people bravely marching, leaders patiently teaching, guiding with wisdom, courage, and grace. "Your quiet strength isn't weakness, James. It's a powerful form of love," Jesus explained gently. "Your dignity gave others courage, inspired hope, and shaped generations who followed you. You may not have ended racism, but you helped build a foundation strong enough to challenge it." I felt peace flooding me, lifting the burden I'd carried for decades. My struggles mattered. My silence had purpose. Nothing was wasted. But still the deepest ache lingered. My family, Marcus, my grandchildren, I wish I could help them understand this, to heal these wounds. "You will," he assured gently. "But first, I need you to see one more thing." He gestured, and suddenly we stood before countless faces, children, teenagers, young adults, faces of every color and background. They all looked lost, hurting, angry, afraid. "These are my children too," he said softly. "Each one carries wounds they didn't choose. The darkness tells them they aren't enough, that they're unloved, unwanted, alone. They struggle because they can't yet see clearly." I recognized the pain in their eyes. I'd seen it before in my students, in Marcus, even in myself. The universal pain of feeling invisible, unwanted, rejected. "They are blind to their true value," he said, voice thick with compassion. "They don't yet know that their worth isn't determined by others, but by how deeply they're loved, by me, by you, by those who choose love over fear." My heart broke open with compassion. "How can I help them?" He smiled warmly. "James, your story, your wounds, your quiet courage is exactly what they need to hear. They need your voice to remind them they're loved, valuable, and capable of greatness, even when the world says otherwise. I hesitated. But Michael, why me? I'm just an old, tired man who made too many mistakes. His eyes were gentle but firm. Your mistakes make you human. Your perseverance makes you strong. Your humility makes you relatable. They will listen because you've walked their path. Deep inside, something shifted. A sense of purpose, a calling, clearer than anything I'd ever felt, yet fear lingered. I don't want to leave you, I confessed quietly, suddenly aware of the weight of this moment. I've waited my whole life to feel this safe, this loved. Jesus stepped closer, his hand resting over my heart again, warm and comforting. James, I'm always with you. This love you feel now, it never leaves you. And your work isn't finished. There are others still walking through darkness, needing your help. Marcus, I whispered, understanding dawning. My grandchildren. Those children lost in anger and pain. He nodded warmly. Your words, your testimony, your quiet courage can heal wounds that no one else can reach. Help them see what you've seen here today, that love always triumphs, dignity is strength, and every human being carries divine worth. My heart swelled with a new courage, a hope stronger than any fear or pain I'd known before. I felt ready, stronger. I'll do it, I promised softly. I'll share what I've learned. I'll speak for every hurting child, every wounded heart. He smiled broadly, radiant, joyful. I know you will, James. And when the time comes to return here again, your peace will be complete. But now, it's time to go back. You have work still waiting. Gently, he placed his hand on my shoulder, guiding me slowly back toward the edge of the golden light. Remember, he whispered softly, you are never alone. Every moment, every struggle, every quiet victory, I am with you. His voice echoed softly, filling my heart with courage, strength, and peace as I felt myself slowly drifting back toward life. I carried no fear, only gratitude and purpose. It wasn't an ending, just a beginning, a new chance to carry this love back into a world that desperately needed to hear it. The first thing I felt was the shock of cold, harsh air rushing painfully back into my lungs. Everything hurt, my chest, my head, even the tips of my fingers. The warmth, peace, and gentle light I'd left behind faded quickly, replaced by the harsh glare of hospital lights and distant, urgent voices around me. He's back, someone shouted. We've got him back. In that moment, returning felt like heartbreak. Tears slipped down my cheeks, partly from the sharp pain in my chest, but mostly from longing. I desperately missed the safety, the complete acceptance, the overwhelming love of that perfect place. Yet beneath the grief, a voice echoed softly inside me. You're never alone. Remember what I showed you. I held on to that promise tightly, even as doctors surrounded me, working frantically. Through blurred vision, I saw Marcus outside the glass doors of the emergency room, his forehead pressed to the glass, watching anxiously. Dorothy stood beside him, hand over her mouth, eyes wide with tears. My heart twisted with emotion, and suddenly all my longing turned into determination. I had work to do. Recovery wasn't easy. Days blurred together in a hospital bed. But each morning, when I opened my eyes, everything felt different. Every breath was precious, every heartbeat a miracle, every visitor was a gift. It was like seeing the world through new eyes, clearer and brighter than ever before. When Marcus finally came to my bedside, his strong lawyer's posture replaced by quiet uncertainty, I knew exactly what to say. Marcus, I whispered, reaching weakly for his hand. He took it carefully, as if afraid I might break. I understand why you were angry with me. You needed me to fight louder, I needed you to know I was fighting quietly. I'm sorry we couldn't see each other clearly. Marcus squeezed my hand gently, tears pooling silently in his eyes. Dad, I thought I'd lost you. I never wanted that argument to be the last thing between us. It's not, I promised softly. This is a new start for us both. No more hiding, no more silence. Just honesty and love. He nodded, unable to speak, but his eyes said enough. In that moment, years of misunderstanding dissolved, replaced by something deeper and stronger. Forgiveness, understanding, a shared purpose. Over the coming weeks, as my body slowly healed, the real transformation took root in my daily life. The eternal perspective I'd gained during my experience shaped every decision. Before, I'd always rushed through mornings, distracted, too busy worrying about responsibilities to truly notice people. Now, mornings were sacred. Time spent sitting on the porch with Dorothy, watching the sunrise, sipping coffee slowly, savoring quiet conversation. I no longer measured success by achievements or money, but by relationships, how deeply I loved, how fully I listened. My family became my highest priority, not out of duty but genuine joy. I spent hours sitting with my grandchildren, little James and Destiny, reading to them, playing catch, asking questions, and truly listening to their answers. Destiny's laugh, little James's serious questions about life. These were treasures I'd missed before. Marcus and I began talking regularly, our conversations open and vulnerable. He shared his struggles as a lawyer fighting against injustice. I shared my stories, the silent battles he'd never known. For the first time, we genuinely understood each other. Healing flowed in both directions. My health became another priority. Instead of silently ignoring stress, I learned to slow down, to listen to my body and care for myself. Dorothy and I began daily walks around Cedar Ridge, noticing neighbors we'd barely acknowledged before, smiling warmly, stopping to chat. We became more deeply connected, appreciating each day together like never before. But my purpose went beyond family. My heart still held images of the countless young faces Jesus showed me, children feeling unloved, forgotten, blind to their worth. So I began speaking at churches, community centers, and schools. I shared my story openly, honestly, the pain of racism, the mistakes, the quiet strength I once thought worthless, and the extraordinary love and purpose I found through meeting Jesus. In classrooms filled with teenagers wrestling with anger, hopelessness, or confusion, I saw reflections of myself. I shared how anger could consume you, but quiet dignity, forgiveness, and love could heal the deepest wounds. My words reached hearts that needed them most, young people finally seeing their own worth clearly, often for the first time. I started mentoring young men and women struggling with injustice and frustration, helping them find ways to turn their anger into purposeful, positive change. Every life I touched reminded me again of God's promise. Love is always stronger than darkness. One evening, Marcus joined me at a community event, watching from the back as I spoke. Afterwards, he hugged me tightly, whispering, "I see it now, Dad. You were never weak. You were stronger than anyone I knew. And you're making me stronger too." Those words meant more than any professional achievement, more than any recognition. They were proof that my life, every quiet struggle, every hidden sacrifice, had mattered deeply. Over the following months, I continued speaking and writing, sharing the message that had transformed me. Everyone has worth, dignity, and divine purpose. Every act of kindness, every choice of love over fear, matters eternally. As Dorothy and I entered our retirement years together, it was no longer something we merely survived. It became something we deeply celebrated. We laughed more, forgave quickly, treasured small moments, knowing each was precious. Our love, tested by years of struggle, grew stronger, gentler, richer. One afternoon, exactly 1 year after my heart attack, we gathered again in our backyard for another barbecue. Marcus proudly stood, grilling burgers, smiling warmly at our neighbor, Mr. Davis. Destiny and little James played near the oak tree, giggling happily. Dorothy fussed over potato salad, not bothering to hide the store-bought container this time. Sitting quietly, watching my family, a deep peace settled within me. Life had come full circle. This was true success: family, love, reconciliation, purpose. Maybe you've wondered if your life truly matters, if your quiet struggles go unnoticed. Let me tell you this: nothing is wasted. Every moment, every sacrifice, every act of love echoes into eternity. The pain you carry, the wounds you hide, they're not invisible to God. He sees you clearly, loves you completely, and has purpose for your life far greater than you can imagine. And if you're still waiting for a sign to live differently, here it is. Don't wait to love deeply, forgive freely, and cherish those around you. Life is fragile, but it's beautiful. Choose relationships over riches, family over achievements, health and peace over stress and hurry. Above all, know this: you're never alone. Jesus walks quietly beside you, even in your deepest struggles. He waits patiently, ready to heal every wound, guide every step, and transform your life into something beautiful, just as he did mine.